I got involved in the San Francisco movement mainly through the Alvin Duskin campaigns. And the way that happened, if you want that story. I went to lunch with Warren Hinkle. He was at the time the editor of, I don't know whether it was Ramparts or Scanlon's at that point, but he was involved in putting out a magazine locally. We were having lunch one day at Enrico's, where we had lunch every day. And we were talking about this bill that had just been passed by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, agreeing to allow a guy from Texas to come in and put a space museum on Alcatraz, and tear down Alcatraz and put a space museum. We just thought that was the most disgusting, stupid idea. And we were trying to figure out what can we do about that. And we said, let's run some ads, but where are we going to get some money to run some ads? And then Alvin was sitting at that table over there, and Alvin was then in the dress business. He wasn't rich, but he was ambitious. And so I called him over, and I said, Alvin, do you want to be famous? And he said, yeah, I want to be famous. And so I said, all it's going to cost you is $5,000. That's what an ad in the Chronicle, full page in the Chronicle in those days cost $5,000. Allows you $5,000, you'll be famous. We'll do this ad about the Alcatraz thing. You sign it, you deal with the press conferences then from then on, and you're famous.
I was having lunch and ran into Jerry Mander and Warren Hinkle. They suggested that I join in with a group of 50 people who were going to put $100 each into an ad in the Chronicle, which would protest the sale of Alcatraz Island to Lamar Hunt, to make on one side of the island a monument to the Apollo 8 mission, and on the other side of the island a recreation of Victorian San Francisco, with boats going back and forth from Aliota's pier at Fisherman's Wharf. And I started thinking about decision-making procedures in the city. That's what the ads were always about, was who's deciding all this stuff. So then Jerry suggested that it would be a great idea if I wanted to become an instant celebrity and have a lot of fun. And the way to do it would be to put up all the money for the ad and just sign it myself. So I had second thoughts about that. I then went back to my factory, decided to do it, sent Jerry over a check for $5,000, which in those days was a lot of money, 1965, 66, something like that. And then the ad was scheduled to come out. It was absolutely extraordinary experience, because we had this ad that came out, a little bit of Texas and San Francisco Bay, and as big a steel as Manhattan Island, I mean, they were selling the island for almost no money. I think we calculated the revenue of the city was going to be the same as the elevator concession at Coit Tower. And so this ad came out, and I hardly slept the night before. I just didn't know what was going to happen. The ad came out. The first thing that happened was I got a call from one of the television stations saying, would you come down, first thing in the morning, would you come down here? We want to film you live. So I went down to KPIX or whatever it was at the time. And this is 8 o'clock in the morning. And they said, we're going to show you a clip of Joe Alioto, and we want you to respond to it. And the clip of him was, who's this Alvin Duskin telling us what to do with our island? He's a New York dress designer, and I don't think his designs are any good. He says something really inane. Then they clipped to me, and all I did was start laughing. I started laughing. And the TV guy said, why are you laughing? I said, because, I'm from San Francisco. I'm not from New York. This isn't about my dresses. And then when I got to the factory, there was the Chronicle, and everybody else was at the factory. And I was on the front page of both the Chronicle and the Examiner that day or the next day. I was an instant celebrity, which was great for my social life in the city. And they went sort of back and forth on what's this about? Why is Lamar Hunt wanting to buy this island? Why is the mayor supporting him? What's going on here? What's everybody's motivation? And Lamar Hunt was going to come back and sue the city for, not fulfilling the contract. And the supervisors all said, well, we didn't really sell the island to, we just thought entering into negotiations. The city attorney got up and said, no, you sold the island. I mean, you have a contract here to sell the island. So they said, oh, no. And they rescinded the sale, which was the grounds of Lamar Hunt's lawsuit. The controversy continued until somebody called me, some guy who said he was a tugboat operator in the bay, and he said the reason that they want this is that the deepest part of the bay is on the south side of Alcatraz, and Lamar Hunt wants that to offload oil because the new generation of tankers cannot maneuver within the bay. They're too big, but But Alcatraz, if you look at it, it's a direct line from the Golden Gate. So they go right up to Alcatraz and offload on the south side, and then there'll be a terminal there after Victoria and San Francisco fails, and Apollo 8 mission nobody cares about anymore. And there'll be an offloading terminal there, and they'll offload oil, and it'll go to Point Richmond that way. They can't bring the next generation of boats up to Point Richmond. And so I called somebody at the Chronicle and said, I want you to interview me and ask me what's really going on here. And I told them the story. I said, this is just hearsay, but I think it may be true and you should investigate this. This is what I've heard from people who are knowledgeable about the bay and the water in the bay and the industry. I think this is all a plot to do an oil terminal. At that point, everything ended. Nothing more was said by anybody. Lamar Hunt went away. There was no lawsuit. The mayor was quiet. The Board of Supervisors, the Indians moved in. It became a part of the National Park Service.
Alvin Duskin was launched, and he was a great battler. He was fantastic, and he was great with the press. He was funny. He was charming. He was ready to go, ready for the next thing. So first there was Alcatraz, which we had a big, fast, super fast win on. You know, within 2 weeks they had basically canceled that deal. And Alvin was all really hot to trot at that point. So then we took on the high rises.